You think your life is messy? You got bills, relationship drama, maybe a weird boss who microwaves fish in the break room? Cool. Now imagine being a Spider-Man, where your arch nemesis is literally a typewriter. Or being the version who's a cartoon pig fighting a pudgy cow villain. Or, and this is my personal favorite, being the Spider-Man who lives in the cyberpunk hellscape where everything is chrome and everyone's pissed off about it. The Spider-Verse isn't just a multiverse. It's a cafeteria fight where every table represents a different genre, and they're all throwing the same emotional baggage at each other, but with wildly different aesthetics. Same dead uncle, different filter. It's like if trauma had a Pinterest board. So today we're diving into the absolute fever dream that is Spider-Man across the timelines. Because apparently, one Peter Parker wasn't enough. We needed 20 flavors of guilt and responsibility. Let's swing into this madness. First stop on our multiverse tour bus is around Earth 90214. It's 1933 in the real world. The Great Depression squeezing wallets like a vice. Gangsters run the streets, and the whole city smells like smoke and trouble. And someone, some genius, looked at Spider-Man and said, yeah, but what if you wore a fedora and brooded in shadows all the time? Meet Spider-Man Noir, also known as Peter Parker. This isn't your neighborhood-friendly Spider-Man. It's a world of grit, and more grit. This version of Peter doesn't get bitten by a radioactive spider in a clean, sterile lab. Nah, that's too boring. This dude gets chomped by a spider that crawled out of a mystical idol during a warehouse fight with mobsters. Because in the 1930s, even the origin stories had to involve smuggled ancient artifacts and vague occult nonsense. Very on brand for the era. Peter talks like a hard-boiled detective who's seen too much and drinks too much coffee. Which, honestly, valid. The man lives in a timeline where FDR is president. That's not Spider-Man's New York. That's Gotham without the budget. His rogues gallery includes Norman Osborn as the Goblin, but also mobsters, corrupt politicians, and ideological extremists. Homeboy's out here doing real vigilante work, while Tobey Maguire's Peter is worried about pizza delivery times. The tone is grim. The dialogue is snappy, but drenched in hopelessness. And the whole thing is rendered in this gorgeous, high-contrast animation style that looks like someone scanned a 1940s pulp magazine and said, let's make this move. But here's the thing about Noir Pete that makes him fascinating. Underneath the trench coat and the cynical one-liners, he's still Peter Parker. He still lost his Uncle Ben. He still carries that weight and believes people are worth saving, even when literally everything around him suggests otherwise. The world is collapsing. Democracy is under threat. And he's out here stopping purse snatchers because someone has to care. That's the tragedy baked into Spider-Man Noir. He's a good man in a timeline that punishes goodness. Every win feels temporary. Every saved life is one mugging away from disaster. And yet, he keeps swinging. Also, and this cannot be overstated, the egg creams. This man will not shut up about egg creams. It's the 1930s equivalent of Starbucks loyalty, except instead of pumpkin spice, it's chocolate syrup and seltzer water mixed with the tears of the proletariat. Noir Pete talks about egg creams the way people now talk about craft beer. Dude's got priorities. Oh, and the fedora. Can't forget the fedora. It's not just a hat, it's a statement. It says, I've seen things, kid. Things you wouldn't believe. Things that would make you rethink your whole concept of justice and morality. Also, I look damn good in wool. The fight scenes in this universe are brutal and grounded. No flashy acrobatics set to pop music. Just raw, scrappy brawling in alleyways lit by a single street lamp. Punches land with weight. Gunshots echo. And when Noir Pete takes a hit, you feel it. What makes Spider-Man Noir work is that he's a Spider-Man who exists in a world that doesn't believe in heroes. The people he saves are jaded, the cops are crooked, and hope is a rare commodity. But he swings anyway. Cracks jokes anyway, even if they're tinged with gallows humor. Keeps fighting anyway, because what's the alternative? Let the fascists win? Let the mobsters run everything? Nah, not on his watch. This version of Spider-Man is proof that the core of the character, the responsibility, the resilience, the refusal to give up, transcends time, place, and color palette. You can strip away the quips, the bright colors, the optimistic sheen, and what you're left with is still Spider-Man. Just one who needs a stiff drink and a better timeline. But we're not done with the dark stuff yet. Oh no. Because if you thought 1933 New York was rough, Wait until we talk about the universe where Peter Parker becomes the villain and Gwen Stacy has to clean up his mess. And you'll want to stick around for this one, because Earth 65 is where things get really tragic. Now we're in Earth 65, where the universe looked at the Spider-Man formula and said, what if we made everything worse, but with better fashion sense? This is the timeline where Gwen Stacy got bit by the radioactive spider instead of Peter Parker. Sounds cool, right? Except Earth 65 didn't just flip the script. It set the script on fire, then made Gwen watch it burn while her dad tries to arrest her. Because here's the twist nobody asked for but everyone got traumatized by. Peter Parker wasn't the hero in this universe. He was the cautionary tale. Let's set the scene. Gwen's the drummer for a band called the Mary Janes. She's got the undercut, the ballet training, the whole effortlessly cool teenager vibe going on. Gets spider powers, starts web slinging, saves people, does the hero thing. Meanwhile, Peter Parker, her best friend, is getting demolished daily by Flash Thompson and the usual high school nightmare parade. And Peter's tired, exhausted, and broken down by the relentless bullying and the feeling that nobody gives a damn whether he exists or not. So what does he do? He Frankensteins himself into the lizard using some bootleg serum, because if the world's gonna treat him like a monster, he might as well become one with teeth. That's the gut punch of Earth 65. Peter doesn't become a villain because he's evil. He becomes one because he's desperate, hurting, and completely out of options. It's the saddest possible corruption arc, and it ends exactly how you'd expect, badly. With Gwen holding his body as he dies, transforming back into the scrawny kid who just wanted someone to notice he was drowning. Gwen doesn't just lose her best friend. She carries the weight of knowing she couldn't save him, that while she was out being Spider-Woman, feeling powerful and free, Peter was spiraling into the kind of darkness that ends with lab chemicals and irreversible choices. The guilt doesn't just sting, it festers, and her dad, Captain George Stacy, leads the NYPD's task force to hunt down Spider-Woman, who he believes is responsible for Peter's death. So Gwen's out here being a superhero, while her own father has a literal manhunt with her name on it. Family dinners in the Stacy household must be absolutely excruciating. But let's talk about the aesthetic for a second. Because Earth 65 is what happens when a graphic designer takes shrooms and decides to make every frame an emotional mood ring. The art style is this watercolor dreamscape, where colors bleed and shift based on the emotional temperature of the scene. When Gwen's hyped, performing with her band, the world explodes in hot pinks and electric blues. When she's grieving, processing Peter's death, everything drains into these cold, washed-out pastels. It's visual ASMR for people with anxiety. Every scene feels alive and reactive. The colors drip. They blur at the edges. It's gorgeous and unsettling at the same time, like watching someone's mental state leak onto the canvas in real time. You're not just watching Gwen's story. You're inside her head, drowning in the same colors that drown her. And Gwen's not handling it well. She's a fugitive, a drummer in a band that's falling apart, and a daughter lying to her dad's face every single day. The secret identity trope isn't fun banter here. It's suffocating. Every conversation with her father is a tightrope walk over a pit of betrayal. One slip, one wrong word, and the person she loves most will either arrest her or realize his entire career has been built on hunting his own kid. The band, the Mary Janes, is her anchor. Mary Jane Watson, Glory Grant, Betty Brant. These girls are her lifeline, the only space where she gets to be Gwen and not Spider-Woman or person of interest. But even that's fragile. Because how long can you keep a double life going when half your existence is a lie? How many canceled practices and vague excuses before your friends start asking questions you can't answer? What's fascinating about Gwen is she's not naturally cynical like Noir Pete. She wants to believe in the goodness of people. She wants the hero thing to work. But the universe keeps proving her wrong. Peter died. Her dad's hunting her. J. Jonah Jameson is, unsurprisingly, still a loud nightmare screaming about vigilantes. And every time she saves someone, she's reminded that she couldn't save the one person who actually needed her. That's the reverse card. In most Spider-Man stories, the hero rises from tragedy. Here, the tragedy just keeps happening. But she doesn't quit, doesn't hang up the mask, even though every logical bone in her body is screaming that this is unsustainable. Because quitting means Peter's death was for nothing. Quitting means letting the world become the kind of place that eats kids like Peter alive without consequence. So she fights, even when fighting feels pointless. Also, the suit. Can we talk about the suit? White and black with the hood, the ballet shoes, The whole ballerina meets streetwear energy. It's iconic, distinct, and it visually screams, I'm a different kind of spider, which is exactly the point. Gwen's not trying to be Peter Parker. She's trying to be Gwen Stacy in a world that won't let her breathe. And now Gwen's stuck in the aftermath, drumming out her rage and guilt, while the city she protects wants her in handcuffs. That's the ultimate reverse card. The hero wins, but every victory tastes like ash. All right, so we've covered the guy who fights Fedora and the girl who couldn't save her best friend from himself. You'd think we've hit peak emotional damage, right? Wrong. Because now we gotta talk about the weird spider people. The ones where the multiverse stopped caring about logic and just started throwing darts at a wall labeled, what if Spider-Man was a cartoon pig or an anime? Buckle up. This is where physics goes to die. Temporarily. Meet Spider-Ham. No, I'm not having a stroke. There is a canonical Spider-Man who is a cartoon pig. And before you ask, no, he's not a pig who got bit by a radioactive spider. That would make too much sense. He's a spider who got bit by a radioactive pig. Let me say that again for the people who don't get it. A spider got bit by a pig and became a cartoon pig with spider powers. His name is Peter Porker. He fights a villain named Dr. Doom. Earth 8311 operates on Looney Tunes physics, which means Spider-Ham can pull a giant mallet out of his pocket. Where did the pocket come from? He's a pig in spandex. Survive getting flattened by an anvil, peel himself off the pavement like a sticker, and walk it off. The man casually defies thermodynamics as a bit. Gravity is a suggestion. If he needs a prop for a joke, it simply materializes because the universe has given up on rules. And honestly, that's the whole point. Spider-Ham exists to remind you that comics are weird, that superheroes are inherently ridiculous, and that sometimes a talking pig in a onesie can teach you about responsibility just as well as a brooding teenager. He's the multiverse's middle finger to anyone taking this too seriously. But wait, it gets weirder. Because while Spider-Ham is busy defying physics for laughs, we've got Peni Parker over on Earth 14,512, piloting a giant robot like she's auditioning for Neon Genesis Evangelion. Penny's universe is full-blown anime. We're talking sparkles, oversized eyes that take up 40% of her face, and enough pastel colors to make a Sanrio store look goth. She's a 14-year-old girl who shares a psychic link with a radioactive spider, and together, they control a mech suit called SPDR, a whole-ass Gundam with spider legs. The spider, by the way, lives in the robot, which she has a telepathic bond with, because in the future, apparently, we decided spider powers weren't enough. We needed to make it a mecha pilot situation. It's like someone watched Pacific Rim, played a Spider-Man game, and said, what if we combined these and made it cute? Her whole vibe is power of friendship energy dialed up to 11. She's got the school uniform, the chunky sneakers, the optimistic ganbarimasu attitude that every magical girl anime protagonist has before the plot crushes their soul. Except instead of fighting with a wand or a transformation sequence, she fights with a 20-foot-tall robot that shoots webs and punches buildings. Everything in her world is neon-lit, high-tech, and dripping with that glossy, hyper-stylized anime polish. When she moves, there are motion lines. When she's determined, her eyes do that sparkle thing. But here's the thing about Penny. Underneath the sparkles and the giant robot, she's alone. Her father died piloting SPDR before her. She inherited this responsibility at 9 years old. 9. Most kids at 9 are worried about book reports. Penny's out here forming a psychic bond with an arachnid to pilot a war machine because someone has to protect the city. And apparently, that someone is a child. The anime aesthetic hides a pretty bleak reality. Penny's life is duty, isolation, and mechanical maintenance. She doesn't get a normal childhood. She gets training sims and spider robot therapy sessions. And when she meets the other spider people, you can feel how desperate she is for connection, for people who get it, who understand what it's like to carry this weight at an age where you should be worried about homework, not saving the world. So yeah, her timeline's got the sparkles and the giant robo, but strip that away and it's just another version of the same story. A kid forced to grow up too fast because someone has to be the hero. Meanwhile, Spider-Ham is still pulling rubber chickens out of nowhere and hitting bad guys with cartoon sound effects. The tonal whiplash between these two is insane. One's a Tex Avery short, the other's a Studio Trigger anime, and somehow, they're both Spider-Man. That's the beauty and the chaos of the multiverse. It doesn't care about tonal consistency. It just throws darts at genres and says, make it work. And they do make it work. Spider-Ham brings levity when things get too heavy. Peni brings heart and sincerity when the jokes get too dense. Together, they're proof that Spider-Man isn't just one thing. The character is elastic enough to stretch across cartoon logic, mecha anime, noir detective novels, and everything in between without breaking. Alright, so we've covered the depressing timelines, the cartoon chaos, and the anime mech battles. And you'd think we're done, but we aren't. Because we haven't talked about the guy who looked at all of this entire buffet of multiversal madness, and decides he's going to make the rules. If you have watched this far, a sub to this channel might be your official application to join the Spider Society. Miguel O'Hara is what happens when you take Spider-Man and remove every single ounce of fun from the equation. No quips or friendly neighborhood anything. This man doesn't stop bank robberies and crack jokes. Miguel O'Hara wakes up, manages a multiversal crisis before breakfast, and goes to bed knowing he'll have to do it again tomorrow. He's the oldest sibling at Thanksgiving dinner watching everyone else get drunk while he does damage control. Welcome to Earth 928. The year is 2099. Corporations run everything, and I mean everything. Your job, your home, your food, your DNA, all owned by megacorps that make Amazon look like a lemonade stand. Miguel's not some teenager who gets bit at a science fair. He's a geneticist working for Alchemax. He's brilliant, overworked, and trying to quit because he's realized his boss, Tyler Stone, is using him to do deeply messed up genetic experiments. Tyler's response was, dose Miguel with Rapture, a highly addictive drug that Alchemax conveniently also manufactures. Now Miguel's hooked, and the only supplier is his employer. Can't quit your job if your body physically needs the company's product to function. So Miguel, in a desperate attempt to reset his own DNA and kick the addiction, breaks into his lab and uses an experimental gene rewriting machine. Because when you're a geneticist having the worst day of your life, you absolutely should operate heavy machinery that rewrites your molecular structure. What could go wrong? Everything. Everything goes wrong. A coworker with a grudge sabotages the machine mid-process, and Miguel's DNA gets spliced with a spider's genetic code at the molecular level. He wakes up wrong. Stronger, faster, but wrong. His fingers and toes have retractable talons that can cut through metal. He's got fangs that secrete a paralyzing venom. His vision is so sharp it's overwhelming. He has to wear a special suit just to filter the sensory overload. Because apparently 2099 decided spider powers should come with migraines. Oh, and no spider sense. The thing that makes every other spider person a precognitive dodge machine, Miguel doesn't have it. He has to rely on raw reflexes and those enhanced eyes, which means he fights like a predator, not a hero. Faster, more brutal, more calculated. He's not dancing around bad guys, he's hunting them. The aesthetic is pure cyberpunk fury. He swings through a city that glows with corporate logos the size of skyscrapers, where the rich live in floating penthouses and the poor are left in the shadows below. It's gorgeous and horrifying, and Miguel? He's tired, exhausted. He didn't ask for this, didn't want to be Spider-Man. But in a world where corporations own everything and heroes don't exist, someone has to push back. So he does, reluctantly, angrily, with the energy of a man who knows the system is rigged, but fights anyway because what else is there? Fast forward to the Spider Society. Miguel's not just dealing with his own nightmare timeline anymore. Now he's running a multiversal operation, trying to keep every spider person's timeline from collapsing into non-existence. He's built this whole infrastructure, the Spider Society, where spider people from across dimensions work together to stop canon events from being disrupted. Canon events are the big, terrible, unavoidable tragedies that have to happen for a spider person's timeline to stay intact. Mess with canon events, and entire realities start glitching out of existence. And Miguel's the guy enforcing it. He's the one telling every spider person, yes, you have to let that loved one die. Yes, it's going to destroy you. No, you don't get to save them. Because if you do, billions of people cease to exist. The tragedy of Miguel O'Hara is that he's right, at least from his perspective. He tried to break the rules once, tried to replace a dead version of himself in another timeline, live a happy life with a family that wasn't his, and that entire universe collapsed. He's not wrong to be paranoid. The multiverse is fragile, held together by narrative consistency and cosmic duct tape. One person saves the wrong person at the wrong time, and reality starts eating itself. Here's the thing about the Spider-Verse that makes it work. Every single one of these spider people takes the same leap. Not the literal leap, though yeah, there's always a dramatic falling through the city moment. I'm talking about the other leap, The one where you decide that even though the world is actively trying to crush you, even though you've lost people, even though the odds are laughable and the universe seems personally invested in your suffering, you're going to put on the mask anyway. The genius of the Spider-Verse isn't that it shows us 100 versions of Peter Parker. It's that it proves the Spider-Man story works in any genre, any timeline, any art style. You can set it in the Great Depression, or a cyberpunk future, or a cartoon dimension where physics is a joke, and the core holds. Because it's not about the powers. It's never been about the powers. It's about looking at a world that's broken and choosing to save it anyway. That's why all of them work. Because they're proof that the story isn't about perfection. It's about showing up. And maybe you will fail. Probably you'll fail a few times, actually. But you'll get back up. Because that's what spider people do. So yeah, your life might be messy. You might feel like you're barely holding it together. You might be facing down your own version of the Kingpin, or the Green Goblin, or just the crushing weight of existing in a world that wasn't designed with your survival in mind. But you're here. You're still in the fight. That's the leap. That's all it's ever been. And if you made it this far, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button. Think of it as your own little leap of faith. Except instead of falling through a city, you're just clicking a button. I'm Joe, and remember, anyone can wear the mask. Even you. Especially you. See you in the next one.